The predecessor of House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones, is known for having lots of scenes, tasteful or not. There are also scenes present in House of the Dragon, and they are generally devoid of the gore present in the show. In today's video, we are going to rank the scenes present in House of the Dragon and dig a little deeper into some of them. First up, the scene involving Alicent and Viserys makes her far more tragic. It's appropriate that Alicent's emotionless scene with Viserys comes right after the former's talk with Rhaenyra, in which the Targaryen princess mocks the romanticism of being imprisoned in a palace and ordered to squeeze out heirs once she marries. Rhaenyra recognizes the sorrow in her friend's experience and strives to prevent the same outcome. Although Alicent leads a complicated life and would like to have sex with Viserys, she does not actually love him. For her, having sex with her husband is still an obligation. While being queen is a noble and exalted position, being a woman also entails the inability to make independent judgments. Rhaenyra and Alicent serve as the primary examples of the dismal reality of women's existence in Westeros in House of the Dragon, though Alicent looks to have the more terrible story right now. Moving on, why did Daemon seduce Rhaenyra and not have sex with her? In episode 4 of season 1 of House of the Dragon, King of the Narrow Sea, the prince tells his niece in the brothel as they kiss that marriage is a duty. However, it doesn't stop them from acting as they like or f***ing who they please. The episode contrasts Alicent's solitude with Daemon's indulgence. It should come as no surprise that Daemon's visit to King's Landing has a purpose. Near the end of episode 4, the Targaryen prince tells Viserys that he wishes to wed Rhaenyra, who is currently the heir apparent to the Iron Throne. The princess's outing with Daemon and their ensuing intimacy show that he wants to convert her against her father. The way the scene between Rhaenyra and Daemon concludes has been given two alternative interpretations. Viewers may believe that Daemon restricts their encounter to seduction in order to manipulate Rhaenyra by giving her the impression that she has a choice. Daemon will hurt the king more if his daughter voluntarily leaves him rather than trying to persuade Viserys to let him marry the princess. Daemon demonstrates to Rhaenyra the freedom she can have if she decides to leave her father's side by introducing her to the sexual agency that almost exclusively pertains to men. The alternative justification provided by the writers of House of the Dragon Season 1, Episode 4 adds a further component to Daemon's departure. Co-showrunner Miguel Sapochnik stated in HBO's post-episode interviews that, in the end, his impotence in this scene is a reflection of the fact that he understands deep down what he's doing isn't right. Claire Kilner, the director, remarked that while she doesn't simply be horrified by it, she is also delighted by it, contrary to what he thinks. And when that happens, he is left with nothing. He basically can't take not being in charge or having control. So what exactly did Rhaenyra sleeping with Sir Criston mean? Rhaenyra uses Daemon's support to her advantage as she approaches Sir Criston in the climactic scene of House of the Dragon Episode 4. Rhaenyra is a woman and young in the scene, yet she initiates their contact, utterly appending the established power relations of the program. Rhaenyra takes control of her life and rebels against the double standard that has troubled her by sleeping with the knight instead of waiting for the man she will marry. Rhaenyra, the young Targaryen, has often shown her dislike for marriage and the expectations that have been placed on her, but in Westeros, a princess is expected to maintain her virginity for her potential husband. In the 4th episode of Season 1 of House of the Dragon, Rhaenyra even proclaims to Viserys that if she were a male, she could sleep with any woman she wants, and no one in Viserys' court would bat an eye if she fathered a dozen bastards. She is driven to behave out of desire rather than obligation as a result of her understanding of this double standard. Alicent's observation of her life and Daemon's remarks. Rhaenyra's sexual encounter with Sir Criston thus focuses more on her emancipation than on her love for her spouse. Rhaenyra's rejection of the fate that so many women before her have met is the subject of the first 4 episodes of House of the Dragon. She rejects the idea of being a factory-producing heir and being married off to a man for her family's political gain. Rhaenyra's development and her chosen course are reflected in her decision to make love to a man with no real political influence but whom she desires. This evening marks Rhaenyra's comeback and the beginning of her rebellion against her father. Now, let's go through the scenes from the first season of House of the Dragon. Over the course of its 10-year run on television, Game of Thrones was renowned for its violence and violent sex. The creators of House of the Dragon were aware that their successor would have a lot to live up to, despite their efforts to downplay some of its less appealing elements. Although there is a lot of blood and gore in the program, thankfully the scenes from Season 1 of House of the Dragon have mostly kept apart from those. There was a lot of encounter in the House of the Dragon. Mistresses and consorts were capped and rejected, and romantic relationships began and terminated. That's a lot of for the show to broadcast, and while not all of it did, some of it is really hot. Other situations, though, were unquestionably not. Let's go over all the key experiences in the program and rank them according to how much heat they had. In the 6th place, we have the scene where Aegon was at the window. The with Alicent's eldest son, Aegon is the least sexy of them all. Like any other ordinary teen, his mother discovered him, but it's openly out the window, not beneath the covers or in the bedroom. The show purposely chose to make it upsetting and embarrassing. It portends Aegon's subsequent, thankfully off-camera, actions in which he assaulted a young employee of the castle. In 5th place, we have Viserys and Alicent's marital duty. Some viewers found it challenging to watch as Alicent performed her wifely duties, while Viserys, especially when contrasted with Rhaenyra enjoying an amazing first experience in bed. Alicent is simply bored and looks up at the ceiling while she and Viserys try to produce yet another child. It's not violent or anything, it's just that she wishes it was over quickly. In 4th place, we have Daemon and Mysaria's affair. As we go on to the hotter scenes, the one involving Daemon and his mistress Mysaria is passionate but peculiar. The one and only scene in the first episode of the series is boisterous, with Mysaria screaming and Daemon thrusting carelessly as though to make sure everyone in the cheap seats can see it. Although hot, it also has the appearance of a box-checking exercise. The traditional Game of Thrones scene can be found here. The 3rd hottest scene was in the brothel with Daemon and Rhaenyra. This is a fairly intriguing scene, age and incest apart. Daemon takes Rhaenyra to a brothel in order to prove to her that marriage has advantages. He can't take his hands off of her and has to tear himself away, so they don't actually have but they almost do. While she returns to her room in frustration, he wanders off and becomes drunk. The runner-up is Rhaenyra and Sir Criston's first time. Sir Criston Cole, who seems as though he is living in a fairy tale, fills Rhaenyra's empty spot outside her bedroom in place of her uncle. The scene they have is completely different from what happened before at the brothel. Pillows and sheets are flying, and there are giggling and tender whispers. A romance novel's worth of sex where everyone will live happily ever after as soon as it's through. It's almost too sweet to be hot. All of this is set against the image of Alicent, who was denied that bliss, silently performing her duty alongside Viserys. The hottest scene in the first season of House of the Dragon was between Daemon and Rhaenyra, and it happened in the tent. The most intense scene is also the darkest. Literally, Rhaenyra was forced to wed her first husband despite never wanting to. Before she married Laenor, if she had her way, she would have had Daemon abduct her. However, it's possible that waiting was the wiser course of action. When they could finally be together, Rhaenyra was an adult who had a spouse in her bed and children from a different relationship. She is aware of who she is, what she desires, and what fulfills her and what doesn't. Daemon is the only guy for her, and their scene in the tent when they finally complete what they began doing in the brothel 10 years ago was worth the wait. You might have to increase the brightness of your screen to see the scene though. There you go, those are the major scenes in House of the Dragon ranked and a more in-depth look into some of them. What other topic do you want us to discuss? Inform us in the comment section. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.